a time you were 19 and dropped out of school, or maybe you were 29 and thought you were cool, or maybe 39 being a jerk, or 49 or 59. Check this. Never too late to create a clean slate. It's never too late to be great for your own and everyone's sake. It's never too late to create your own fate. It's never too late to be great, but for heaven's sake, don't wait. Get down, throw down, go down right now. Get down right now. Get down right now. Don't slow down right now. Go down right now. Get down right now. Don't slow down right now. Go down right now. I am James Plunky Branch, composer, producer, songwriter, performer, manager, and band leader for Plunky Oneness. Plunky is a saxophonist from Richmond, Virginia. He grew up in that town, went to school in that town, and then he went off to New York and San Francisco. When Plunky was born and when he was a student, he wanted to be a chemist.
Wow.
Because he grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and he was near DuPont. And DuPont had a slogan that said, better things for better living through chemistry.
And you still remember that?
I remember that because I wanted to be a chemist. And primarily I wanted to be a chemist to help people live better lives. I went off to college in the Vietnam era and went to Columbia University, one of the more progressive places on the planet at that time. And when I got to Columbia, I formed my first band. It was a soul group called the Soul Syndicate. And that's where Plunky the artist was born. And we played all around New York. Back when disco was invented, a place called the Cheetah, we used to play there and we would set records. We were playing soul music like I had experienced when I grew up in Richmond. When I grew up in Richmond, there were no DJs. You had jukeboxes in the clubs and live bands. And when I got to New York, there were no, or few, soul bands. And so when we created a soul band on Columbia's campus, it created quite a sensation. I took up jazz. Remember I told you I started playing R&B. When I got to New York, I was exposed to jazz music in New York in a way that had never been before. And that music turned me on. When I got to Columbia, I got involved with politics very heavily. And I didn't finish from Columbia because in my junior year, we ended up taking over the campus in an anti-war, anti-Columbia takeover a piece of Harlem demonstration. And I left school thinking that the revolution was about to take place within months. Went to California. San Francisco and Berkeley was where a lot of left-wing politics was going on, a lot of anti-war protests, and I was involved in that with Angela Davis, the Black Panthers, and others. I moved to San Francisco, where I started playing with an African musician whose name was Ndiko Kraba from South Africa. And I played with him for a couple of years, and I learned a lot about African music and how closely related it was to American jazz music. And then from there, I formed my own group called Juju, and the rest is history. I wanted to be a saxophonist. Why? Because when I was growing up, there was R&B music on the radio, and in every R&B song, the middle of that song had a sax solo. And I wanted to be the guy to take that solo. And I thought I would make people happy. And so Plunky is a guy who's pursued that dream for now more than 40 years of making people happy playing the sax.
91.3 WVST. We're still featuring Plunky for the whole hour. So Plunky, do you travel?
We travel quite a bit. Once or twice a year I go to Europe. I play in Paris and in London. We've been to Africa 6 times to perform. Went to Cuba twice. I've been to Brazil once. So travel is a part of what I do.
Is there a particular country you really enjoy going to?
I like probably the typical places. I love London, I love Paris.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to live in either of them. I wouldn't want to live there any more than I want to live in New York. but I love to visit them. Great cities. I also like San Francisco. I
always want to go there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. I love Rio. It's San Francisco and Rio just happen to be set on two of the most beautiful seacoast pieces of land on the planet. And I like Havana, Cuba. Probably I like the politics. I like the look of the people. So all of the typical places that you hear people say they like, I like. I once did a tour with Bobby Bird, who was James Brown's sidekick. And we went to maybe 15 cities all around Germany and Austria and France. My favorite place to perform, bar none, is in this Richmond area. I know that sounds funny, but I love performing for my hometown, home district, mainly because I think, what I want to do is I travel all over the world, and then I try to bring back what I see and what I learn and some of about the culture. Most of the time when I go, I write journals, which nowadays you call a blog. I keep a journal of my travels and I share them with people, and they almost always say, "Oh, I'm glad you wrote that journal. I felt like I was almost there with you," because I write it in the present tense. I'm constantly taking the notes and putting it into my computer. So it's like a blog. But I love playing here. Now, in terms of places to go, all of those places that I mentioned are my favorite places to play. But I really love playing in the Richmond area. Everybody, anybody, whenever you get a chance to travel, do it. Because as much as I'm talking about Richmond, I wouldn't be the same person if I had never ventured from Richmond. And I believe, and I'd go further, if you get a chance to travel internationally, I don't care if it's as close as Cuba or Mexico or as far as East Asia somewhere, go. Because I believe you don't see this place in the same way ever again once you see it from afar.
Yes.
Because the world is a big place. It's a big and varied place. It's lots of different philosophies. It's lots of different cultures. And I define culture as the way people do things.
Visiting Cuba and, meeting the gentleman that helped you, combine the African music with the jazz music, is that where your type of music came from? Is that where you were inspired from? Really, it began with the R&B music that I grew up on in Richmond, Virginia. And when I combined that R&B with the jazz that I studied in New York, with this African sound and Afro-Cuban rhythms of the early 70s, that combination of music is really what my music has continued to be about. And really that's the essence of the name of my band. It's called Plunky Oneness. And what we're talking about is the similarity, the through line, the themes that are a part of African music and R&B music and gospel music and Latin music and Cuban music. There's a oneness to it. They're always polyrhythmic. There's always a functionality to the music. It's always highly improvisational and high energy. And so that's the oneness. And even though I do lots of different genres in my modern day incarnation, it's always that same basis. It's a kind of a Central African theme to the music. I changed the name from Oneness of Juju. We almost don't have time for this, but I'll have to tell you this humorous story. For all those years, I wanted to go to Africa, and Juju, what Juju was, Juju is a word that means several things. It's a kind of a Nigerian music, a genre of Nigerian music, but Juju is, in some places, sort of like voodoo.
Okay.
It's
okay.
Like, if I had to put a scientific kind of definition, Juju would be defined as being able to affect someone subconsciously with your subconscious, to be able to cast a spell, if you will. So that's what Juju means. So I finally get to go to Africa. I go to Nigeria, home of Juju music. I show them my albums. I get there and I say, they said, wow, what a great thing. Here's a guy, an American, African American, playing Juju music. But they put on the record, they said, this isn't Juju music. You're just using our name and it's not even Juju music.
They didn't get it, yeah.
So I go to Ghana, the next country over. Two things happen. They say, I'm playing in Ghana with my band, Plunky and Oneness of Juju. They're on the radio. I get there, I land on the airplane, I get there, and I hear on the radio, Plunky and the Oneness of God. I go, what? The posters say Plunky and the Oneness of God. They won't say Juju on the radio because for them it's like black magic. It's like sacrilegious.
Wow.
Then I go to another tribe in that same country, and they say, what's the name of the band? I say, Plunky and Oneness of Juju. And to a person, they would all fall down laughing. They would laugh at the name. I said, why are you laughing? Finally, when I'm told, and I'm gonna say this, and it's in their language, Juju meant the same thing as doo-doo. See how you laughed? And they said, what a great concept, the oneness of shit.
Do you have any other artists that are particularly influential to you?
Probably lots. I would say everybody who's ever played the saxophone that I heard. Some of the new artists like Robert Glasper, who's a jazz artist who does some hip hop things mixed in. I love Jill Scott because I love her lyrics. I think of her, she's a great singer, but I think of her as a lyricist, as a wordsmith. John Coltrane, who's passed away, way back in the day, Sly Stone, James Brown, King Sunny Ade, and Fela Ransom Kuti, two African musicians.
Let's go into the music world. There's a concert going on. You get a chance to put the concert together. You got your opening act, you got your middle act, and you got your closer. Who would those three artists or groups be?
Well, I'm not even going to put a lot of thought into it. I know somewhere on that bill, George Clinton and P-Funk would be there.
Okay.
They are an inspiration because they use all of the visuals and smells and sounds and
George Clinton good with them smells.
Yeah. Funk. He said, hey, smell my finger.
And it's a literal thing, man. It's a literal thing.
I'm relying on what has gone before me.
Yes.
I didn't invent the saxophone. I didn't invent the scales I've been using. I didn't invent the blues. I'm, as other people in a great metaphor, I'm standing on the shoulders of the people who did those things to give me a foundation. When I get on stage, wherever I am, and say, we are Plunky Oneness from Richmond, Virginia. And sometimes when I'm in places like France, I have a manager in France, and she kids me. She said, every other thing that comes out of your mouth, you are talking about Richmond. Yeah, we know it's not as good as Richmond. Well, part of that is an affectation, but part of it's real. This is where I grew up. This is where I had family. Even though I've been all these wonderful places, it was Richmond that gave me that foundation. It was my wonderful parents who were just steadfast, working type black people in Richmond. It was Richmond and its very segregated community that gave me the strength to overcome. It was Richmond that gave me some of my most long-lasting friends. It was Richmond that gave me James Brown and gospel music and blues on the radio. It was Richmond that taught me how to have bands because Stacey Henry and the Majestics and Ujima and Trussell and all the bands from this area was what gave, really when I went to New York and found this great success, people don't know this, all I did was go try to be a Richmond band in New York.
Your family helps you out a lot with your music?
Absolutely. My brother has been playing bass with me for the whole 40 years. 40 years is a misnomer. I've actually been a professional musician for 45 years.
Okay.
But I've been back in Richmond 40 years. And since I've been back in Richmond, my brother's been playing the bass. My son, who produces all of the tracks on the last two albums, also plays with me live. So yes, my family in that way, very directly. Then my wife and my children and my extended family have all been very supportive. I couldn't do what I have done for so long without some financial support, some just moral support from them. The idea of a starving artist is true. If you just rely on your art, you can starve to death. As an artist, I'm creating a living out of thin air.
Right.
I'm I'm not inventing something. I don't have anything you can touch. I'm doing music. It's just this ethereal thing that I'm creating from nothing and trying to make a dollar.
If you could speak to a young musician or somebody with a young dream, even if it's not the musician art, what would you tell? What would be one piece of solid advice you would give them?
Today I would say diversify.
Okay.
I would use that word. What I recommend to any young person, given today's technology, given today's the potential of what we can do with technology, I would say whatever your primary interest, diversify. If your primary interest is music, because that's what I do, I want people to know music is not just an art, it's a business.
There you go.
And so I want you to learn how to play saxophone, I want you to sing, I want you to rap, I want you to be the greatest of all time. But I believe you won't achieve great heights unless you have some business acumen, some technical knowledge, so that you can do a lot of the things that come into the head in a business and management, to be able to have the ability to do some of that yourself. And even if you get far enough along that you don't have to do it yourself, you will want to know what those people who are doing it in your behalf are doing. You want to be able to manage them, because basically, no matter what business you are a company. You are a brand. And you want to be able to manage your brand. You want to be able to manage the people that operate under you. Or you may have to be like Plunky and you be a one-man brand.
It's a heck of a one-man brand, I tell you that.
How has your style evolved over the years?
Well, it has. I think of myself like a river. I'm the same river, but it's never the same water that's passing me by. And I have evolved. Primarily when I started out, I was playing traditional African drums and Afro-Cuban drums with avant-garde jazz saxophone. Quite a blend, very unique, very artistic, very unpopular. Over the years, I've added more and more R&B, more and more funk, more and more rock and roll, more and more blues. And so the music has continued to evolve through reggae rhythms, disco rhythms for a period, now hip-hop rhythms.
Like drop?
Like drop. My son and my son-in-law are both hip-hop producers, and they have resurrected my old music, sampled it, put new beats to it, and you get this hybrid of something old and something new. And so that's quite an evolution of the music. And that's represented on the new album, Never Too Late. Many of the songs have that blend of the very old and the very new, and I'm quite proud of the new direction. What my son did was sample some of my older music. So we took songs from in the 70s and 80s and 90s, sampled pieces of it, put them together with hip-hop beats, looped them, and then we created new songs, or sometimes redid those songs over those new beats. All of that's relevant because we call the CD or the album Never Too Late. Never too late for those songs. It's never too late for our music. Our black music is classical. I'm defining classical as something that survives more than one generation. And so when I travel abroad, I find that there's a great appreciation, sometimes a greater appreciation for our music in foreign places than we have here.
So would you say there was a pivotal moment in your career that really launched you or got you where you are today?
I'd probably say several.
Okay.
When I released my first album in 1973, that was a pivotal moment because it transferred me from being an ordinary group to having an album. In 1975, I had another album called African Rhythms, and that was the first piece of music that I did that got radio airplay, and it got played in Europe and in Japan. Later, going on that tour with Bobby Bird in the 90s was a good thing because it opened my marketing up to Europe in a very concrete way. And very recently, in 2006, 2007, 2008, there was a man on the radio whose name was Michael Baisden.
Oh, I listened to him.
And Michael Baisden had a nationally syndicated show, and he picked up my song Drop. And for 18 months, he periodically played my song Drop. And that gave me sort of a rebirth of my career because it introduced my music to a whole bunch of new people, younger people.
Right.
Because Drop was a song that people could dance to. People invented line dances and hand dances with that song. It just kept being, finding new life. It was, actually the story of that song was, in 1975, that album that I said, African Rhythms, was so pivotal. I had my son-in-law, Danger Mouse, who was a hip-hop producer. I said, I want to do an updated version of African Rhythms. So he sampled a piece of African Rhythms, and that's what Drop was. It was supposed to be my new version of African Rhythms.
More than I've ever had.
Yeah, it is. I'm proud of it. I was being facetious.
You should be proud. So I was going to ask if you had a particular song you enjoyed to play more than others. Do you have a favorite song? Would that be African Rhythms or?
Probably Drop.
Drop.
Because it gets such a good response.
Yeah.
I tell my audiences oftentimes, it's important that you are here because we can practice this music in my living room day in, day out, but it's not the same as when it's causing a reaction. If I see somebody else exuberantly dancing, being into it, it affects me.
It automatically puts you on that same level.
And that going back and forth, usually when the entertainer is getting off, as we say, that causes the audience to get off. When the audience gets off, it takes everything successively higher. Faster. You understand? Rather than 4, Desiree 4, Carlton 4, Larry 4, 1. These are African Rhythms from 1975. Get us together. The rhythms keep us together. Keep us together. The rhythms.
What are your fans like?
Actually, they run the gamut. Lots of them are old like me, but some of them are young too. I have people internationally who communicate with me. I have a couple of fans who are just diehard fans.
My name is Brianna Epting, and I am here with...
Hey, Dr. Ismail Conway, Chairman of the Department of Mass Communications.
And we are standing outside Plunky's 40th anniversary. Where are you coming from this evening?
Hey, just coming from home, out on a date with my wife. We've been Plunky fans since '75.
What is your absolute favorite song by him? Drop.
My name is Navy Johnson, and I'm standing here with...
Oh, I'm Larry Bland. This is Mariko Sanante.
What would you like to say to Plunky? When he sees us, what would you like for him to hear from you?
That he was my hero.
Hey, I'm Jessica Redwood, and you are?
I'm Gary Macbeth.
All right. What are you looking forward to in the Plunky concert tonight?
Well, I'm looking forward, obviously, to the music, and I really like Plunky's just very positive messages and spirit. It's just wonderful.
Can I get your name, please, sir?
Ed Peaks.
And how long have you been listening to Plunky?
Since 1989.
And how did you find out about his music in the first place?
I'm from Tennessee. I drove up 350 miles just to be here tonight. And he and I have been close friends since 1989. He was at VMI down in Southwest Virginia and fell in love with him. Matter of fact, the week before I saw him, I had just seen Kenny G. And I said, this guy is as good as Kenny G.
If you could say anything to Plunky, what would you like to say for him tonight?
Keep doing what he's doing. He has done great things for the community and for the people and for students as well. So just keep up the good work.
People would say that you're famous. What does fame mean to you?
Well, for me, it means I've been at it a long time.
Okay.
Because my fame, such as it is, has come bit by bit, person by person. And so for me, being famous has been a process of sticking with it and earning fans 1 or 2 families at a time. I'm famous because I've stuck with it for 40 years. I'm a famous musician in Europe, not so much because they love my music, but because they value somebody who's been around for more than 2 generations. I'm so Gotta make rules. Don't talk to me, I got no makeup. Let's see if we match. Let me see. Yeah, yours look better than mine. But only because you don't have red eyes.
I'm surprised since I've been up since 3.
That's my eyes. That's what I look like. No sleep. I got no sleep eyes. All right, can I have your attention, please? So I don't have to talk loud. I don't have a lot of voice. So, first of all, thank all of y'all for being here. I mean that sincerely. This is a big event, much bigger than I even had imagined it would be. My brothers said to me, oh, you're just treating this like a regular gig, and that's what I thought it was going to be. That's exactly what I thought it was going to be. But what happened was, I added all these beautiful people, and it became more than just a gig. It became like, wow, special. The whole town is abuzz of this. I've lived my life in such a way that I love to be able to say about myself, I don't regret anything. I believe that I'm where I am today because this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be right here in the historic Hippodrome Theater. I'm supposed to be right here. And everything that I've done in my life has led me to this point. I hope that people will remember me. I'm sure that some will remember me as a very caring, empathetic guy. And that he was somebody who cared deeply for this community, this specific community, this RVA community, this Richmond community. And I say that because I've had the opportunity to go lots of places. I like to say around the world. I haven't been to Asia, so I can't say around the world. But I've been to Africa 6 times. I've been to Europe touring. I've been as a headliner. I've been to Cuba twice to make movies. I've been to Brazil for to play at Carnival. I've done all these wonderful things, just blessed things. In my life, my happiest moments has been the evolution and development of my kids and my family. Because as an old guy, it's my kids and my family and my relationships in general that I'll live after. So my happiest moment is my relationship with my son and daughter, and now my grandkids, because that's legacy. Let me be like Duke Ellington and say, my highest point is gonna be my next one. Here comes a neo-funky groove. It's just for you, so you can't lose. We fired up this fat funky groove. If you get fired up, you can't lose. Get up and get down on this funky groove. If you give your all, you got nothing to lose. Get up and get down on this funky groove. Get your thing off. You paid your dues. Get up or get down on this funky groove. This funk will make your juices ooze. Get up and get down on this funky groove. If you don't move, you lose. You lose. You lose. That's what you have. You have go swing. Yeah. You have. Here we go, yo. Give me that go swing. That swing. That go swing. When we gonna get our thing on? There's no better time than right now.